The Battle of the Chesapeake, also known as the Battle of the Virginia Capes or simply the Battle of the Capes, was a crucial naval battle in the American Revolutionary War that took place near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay on the 5th of September 1781. The combatants were a British fleet led by Rear Admiral Sir Thomas Graves and a French fleet led by Rear Admiral François-Joseph Paul, the Comte de Grasse. The battle was strategically decisive, in that it prevented the Royal Navy from reinforcing or evacuating the besieged forces of Lieutenant General Lord Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. The French were able to achieve control of the sea lanes against the British and provided the Franco-American army with siege artillery and French reinforcements. These proved decisive in the siege of Yorktown, effectively securing independence for the 13 colonies. Admiral de Grasse had the option to attack British forces in either New York or Virginia. He opted for Virginia, arriving at the Chesapeake at the end of August. Admiral Graves learned that de Grasse had sailed from the West Indies for North America and that French Admiral de Barras had also sailed from Newport, Rhode Island. He concluded that they were going to join forces at the Chesapeake. He sailed south from Sandy Hook, New Jersey, outside New York Harbor, with 19 ships of the line and arrived at the mouth of the Chesapeake early on the 5th of September to see the Grasse's fleet already at anchor in the bay. De Grasse hastily prepared most of his fleet for battle, 24 ships of the line, and sailed out to meet him. The 2-hour engagement took place after hours of maneuvering. The lines of the two fleets did not completely meet, only the forward and center sections fully engaged. The battle was consequently fairly evenly matched, although the British suffered more casualties and ship damage, and it broke off when the sun set. The British tactics have been a subject of debate ever since. The two fleets sailed within view of each other for several days. But de Grasse preferred to lure the British away from the bay where de Barras was expected to arrive carrying vital siege equipment. He broke away from the British on the 13th of September and returned to the Chesapeake, where de Barras had since arrived. Graves returned to New York to organize a larger relief effort. This did not sail until the 19th of October, 2 days after Cornwallis surrendered. Battle of the Chesapeake was a tactical victory for the French by no clear-cut margin. But it was a strategic victory for the French and Americans that sealed the principal outcome of the war. During the early months of 1781, both pro-British and rebel separatist forces began concentrating in Virginia, a state that had previously not had action other than naval raids. The British forces were led at first by the turncoat Benedict Arnold, and then by William Phillips before General Charles, Earl Cornwallis, arrived in late May with his southern army to take command. In June, Cornwallis marched to Williamsburg, where he received a confusing series of orders from General Sir Henry Clinton that culminated in a directive to establish a fortified deep-water port. In response to these orders, Cornwallis moved to Yorktown in late July, where his army began building fortifications. The presence of these British troops, coupled with General Clinton's desire for a port there, made control of the Chesapeake Bay an essential naval objective for both sides. On the 21st of May, Generals George Washington and Rochambeau, respectively the commanders of the Continental Army and the Expedition Particulière, met at the Vernon House in Newport, Rhode Island to discuss potential operations against the British and Loyalists. They considered either an assault or siege on the principal British base at New York City, or operations against the British forces in Virginia, since either of these options would require the assistance of the French fleet. Then in the West Indies, a ship was dispatched to meet with French Lieutenant General de Grasse, who was expected at Cap Français, outlining the possibilities and requesting his assistance. Rochambeau, in a private note to de Grasse, indicated that his preference was for an operation against Virginia. The two generals then moved their forces to White Plains, New York, to study New York's defenses and await news from de Grasse. Lieutenant General de Grasse, painted by Jean-Baptiste Mouses, Admiral Thomas Graves, painted by Thomas Gainsborough. De Grasse arrived at Cap Français on the 15th of August. He immediately dispatched his response to Rochambeau's note. which was that he would make for the Chesapeake, taking on 3,200 troops. De Grasse sailed from Cap Francais with his entire fleet, 28 ships of the line. Sailing outside the normal shipping lanes to avoid notice, he arrived at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay on August 30, and disembarked the troops to assist in the land blockade of Cornwallis. Two British frigates that were supposed